one event after the other. You've heard all my jokes. Maybe some of you haven't heard all of them, so I'm gonna repeat one of them, which is a number of you said, "Hey, I want to get involved with the campaign," and gosh, Brennan, how many times did you follow Mike Kennedy around with that little camera?
At least 100.
At least 100 times. He got abused each time. People have worked in extraordinary ways, and I want to say thank you. But it's the old joke about be careful what you wish for. And the story, and you all, some of you heard the story too many times, but have you all heard that story? Do you know the be careful what you wish for? Yes. No. Okay, so there are a few that haven't heard. So the story is there are two 60-year-olds, husband and wife, walking along the beach, and they stumble across the proverbial lamp in the sand, and the genie pops out and says, "I'll give you each one wish." And the wife says, "I want to be covered in jewels." And poof, covered in jewels. And the genie turns to the husband and says, "What do you want?" And he says, "I'd like to see what it's like to be married to someone 20 years younger than me." And poof, he turns 80. So, you got to be careful what you wish for. You guys were kind enough to say you wanted to be involved in the campaign. You have been, and I appreciate it enormously. These are challenging times and interesting times. And I hope we recognize, first of all, the extraordinary sacrifice that was made to give us the right to vote and to have our democracy. The loss of the wonderful mayor of North Ogden is one which weighs heavy on the hearts of Utahns and people across the country, as you know, killed in Afghanistan just this week. And we think about him and his wife and family of 7 children. These are times of extraordinary challenge around the world with some forces that would do us harm and take away our freedoms around the world. At the same time, there are challenges here at home. There are a lot of people in our state that are having a hard time. You wouldn't know that along the Wasatch Front, given how fast we're growing. But there are a lot of people in our state that are really having a hard time because their community is shrinking. We've got 11 counties where the population is going down and jobs are going away. So we're going to work very hard to do our best to help all the people in our state. And at the same time, I'm worried about what's happening with the country as a whole. We're spending a lot more money than we take in, and I want to see if it's not possible to get us on a trajectory to have a balanced budget. That would be nice to have. So we're going to get that done. And then immigration. How is it we have so many people who want to know what their status is in our country? Are they here legally? Will they be able to stay? They have to go home. How do you get into the country legally? They don't know what the process is to become a legal resident of the U.S. And so these are things I hope to be able to work on. And I want to thank you for the opportunity that I hope to have to go to Washington and to represent our state and represent our nation to a certain degree in tackling these kinds of issues. And I'll do my best to represent you in a way that you would feel is appropriate and would make you proud. I should tell you, I've been to some unusual places and seen some things you would hardly believe. I mean, I've been down in Blanding. I've been down to Blanding, and we had lunch in a little drive-in there. And we got a county commissioner that got arrested by the federal government for driving on a county road because the federal government said you can't drive on that road anymore. And it's like, well, I'm a county commissioner. It's in my county. He still had to go to jail. How many days was he in jail? 10 days. All right. Put him in jail for 10 days. That's down in Blanding. On a more cheerful note, I didn't go to jail. No, on a more cheerful note, I mean, I was at a place called, it's hard to believe this, US Magnesium. On the west side of the Great Salt Lake. There's a gentleman there nodding his head. You've heard of this place?
I've seen it.
You've seen it. All right, it's nothing beautiful to behold, unless you're really into machines and equipment. But this is it's like a processing plant on the west side of the Great Salt Lake. So you go out to Grantsville and Tooele, and you drive for about another hour from there. And then you go north to get around the lake a bit. And out there, all by itself, is a place that takes in salt water from the Great Salt Lake. And they evaporate it a bit to sort of condense it down to some minerals. And then they take those minerals and they put them in a big bath with electricity, and it separates out the chlorine and so forth from the magnesium. And this is the only place in America that makes magnesium out of the Great Salt Lake. And every piece of aluminum that's strong has to have magnesium put in it to give it strength. And yet there's only one place in our country that has it, and it comes out of the Great Salt Lake, out of our salt water. And I said, now wait a second. How in the world do we take all this magnesium out of the Great Salt Lake and still have some left in the Great Salt Lake? And they say, you know what? somehow it just magically appears every year. The percentage of magnesium in our water stays the same year after year. They've been there 50 years sucking magnesium out of the Great Salt Lake, and it's still there. And then, of course, you've seen the salt piles. Morton Salt has a huge mountain of white salt just out of the Great Salt Lake. They're just extraordinary things that you see across the state. Most encouraging thing, of course, is to see people who are working hard to support their families, either as a single parent or as a couple. You see young kids that are going to school and are hoping for a bright and prosperous future. We've got some great colleges and universities and technical schools. I've had the chance to go down to Dixie Innovation Center at Dixie State University and see a burgeoning innovation capacity where young people, college students, are coming up with ideas for new products. And they've got a guy who, I guess he's probably 65, 70, maybe 70 plus years old, who retired but knew something about business, goes down there and runs this for no cost, just to help young people come up with ideas. Just extraordinary to see what's happening in this great state of ours. So it's been a real thrill for me. I've really enjoyed being able to go across the state and see every corner, every city, every town. Well, not every town in the whole state. That would be, how many cities and towns do we have, Kelsey? Oh, you don't know? I have a question about Utah that Kelsey does not know the answer to. 402. 402 out of 29 counties. I've been to 29 counties, that I'll tell you. But it's a real thrill, and I would not be able to be successful in this endeavor without the help of volunteers like yourself and interns who've worked so hard over this campaign. I wish you the very best, and more than that, I will serve you as well as I possibly can. And you'll be able to put in your resume that you worked for a guy who's still working for our country. So thank you so much. And by the way, tonight, Mia Love will be here shortly. We're going to make some calls and have some phone banking calls to encourage people to get out to vote that have not yet voted. And Avery, it looks like you've got some lists here. Oh, wonderful. So Matt, come on up here. And is that the idea? Or is this, we're going to do that now. We're going to bring the interns up and present them with a check.